I want to discuss two issues that at first don't seem to have much in common, but there's a thread between the two of them, and that's a new Canadian poll on perspectives on immigration and Ahmed Hussein's response to it, and what's happening on the ground in Hong Kong right now. So first, the poll. This was commissioned by Leger, and it asked Canadians, do they believe there should be more immigration to Canada, or should they pause it and decrease it, barring changes in approaches to integration matters? 2/3 of Canadians said, yes, we have some concerns about immigration as it relates to integration, and a third said, no, it's okay, keep increasing the numbers. Now, Ahmed Hussein, he jumped at this opportunity to say he is concerned about all of this, and he was implying, of course, that there's some sort of prejudice or racism going on, and he jumped at the opportunity to use this to vilify conservative leader Andrew Scheer, talking about his conspiracy theories and alt-right views and all that sort of implication. But hold on a second here. It's very important that integration was a part of that question. This wasn't Canadians saying, we don't like immigration, we don't like immigrants, we don't like this group or that group and so forth. It was about whether or not one can effectively integrate immigrants into our community, or at least the way we're doing it now, if it is being done effectively. And it's really important that Ahmed Hussein, I think, stop and reflect on that and what it all means. I mean, 2/3 of Canadians are saying this. You don't want to vilify people for having this perspective. You're a public servant. This is the view of the majority of the people you're tasked with serving. So take a moment, a pause, and reflect on what all this means. And I've been reflecting on an essay I read written by Francis Fukuyama, who is one of the most prominent political science professors in the English language, and as his name should be a dead giveaway for, he's no alt-right white supremacist. In fact, he's somewhere, centrist, liberal, maybe a bit left and so forth. He's liked by general liberal communities. He wrote an essay in Foreign Affairs magazine, again, no, intellectual right-wing dark web kind of thing, but one of the most prestigious centrist journals out there for sort of the liberal consensus. He wrote an essay in that publication talking about integration issues, why integration matters, why there's only a certain number of immigrants a country can absorb in a way that is sort of efficient with integration principles, and said if not, you're going to fray at the social fabric and you might even have security problems. Again, this is Professor Fukuyama speaking. I think Ahmed Hussein would be wise to reflect on what all that means to strike the balance. Okay, so where does the Hong Kong thing come into this? Well, in recent weeks, we have seen hundreds of thousands of people take to the streets to protest the communist regime overstepping their reach in Hong Kong, the communist regime in Beijing, wanting to bring in that extradition law in Hong Kong that says they can extradite anyone for wrongthink or wrong speak or what have you. I mean, that's not what they're saying, but those are the people's very valid concerns. And given it happens in mainland China, people being disappeared for various reasons, you better believe there's good reason to worry it will happen there. It's been really inspirational to see all of these people take to the streets. They've been singing songs from the musical Les Miserables. They're saying, no, we don't want to be under this authoritarian regime, under this communist regime. Now, a similar thing actually happened a couple decades ago in the 90s when people in Hong Kong were concerned about the handover from Britain to China. And a lot of them came to Canada at that time. A couple 100,000 people said, we got to get out of here, we're heading to Canada. My idea is that we do #welcome to Canada the right way this time. And if this extradition bill goes through, and it looks like Carrie Lam is still kind of keeping it floating around, they've suspended it, but she's not ruling out bringing it in, let's welcome people from Hong Kong to Canada once again, like happened en masse over 20 years ago. The things this will do is send a clear signal that Canada's interested in bringing in immigrants for sure, not anti-immigrant at all. And of course, we bring in 250, 300,000 people a year, but a large amount of that quota for the next few years can be filled with bringing in a number of people from Hong Kong, welcoming them in. Because it's pretty clear when you look at Hong Kong society, you've got people anti-authoritarian, anti-communist, a lot of similarities with Canadian society. This is a great sort of harmonious way to actually take those concerns that people have in those poll numbers and bring them into action. Canadians are not at all saying they have a problem with immigration. They just want immigrants, I think, more consistent with the Canadian way of life and Canadian values. And if there's anything that is more indicative of Canadian values, it's people taking to the streets and saying we want liberties, we want freedoms, just like the people in Hong Kong have been doing.